Happy Thanksgiving, Chiefs Kingdom. Hope that you have a great day and you are ready for some football because we certainly are. It's Chiefs versus Raiders coming up. We're going to walk you through everything you need to know here on the Game Plan video, the live Friday stream. I know this is a little bit of a unique, everybody's exhausted from Black Friday. Hopefully you're not all in jail from Black Friday. We'll get to all that kind of hubbub here in a minute. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. Welcome to RGR Football. Like, sub, hit the bell, become one of us, and get here on Rogue Nation. We have a lot going on. We're going to go through, give you our predictions for this ball game later in the show, give you the critical matchups, the things that has to happen to get this win. We're going to give you an update, but we're also going to take you through the daily fantasy sports aspect of what this Chiefs game is going to be. Want to help out from our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you get with them. You can use our code RGR, and we'll get more on that in the upcoming segment. But want to start today by celebrating what we do when we're not talking football. And for us, that means it's going to be based around food. And you got to walk me through this, dude.
I mean, first of all, my wife does the turkey every year. That's the thing that she loves, that she always handles. So I don't mess around with it. And she makes homemade cranberry sauce every year. This year we have a bourbon and apple cranberry sauce in the back there. Fantastic. Delicious. I made a smoked mac and cheese, y'all. And I did this with the bechamel. If you guys don't know, a bechamel sauce is a roux, but then you add simmered milk to it, and then you add the cheese, so it gives it the full cheesy feeling. It's not just the roux, that's the butter and the flour. You get all of that. I added some bay leaves into the milk along with some shallots, and then we all cooked it together, and it went in the smoker for about maybe an hour and 15 minutes with some buttered breadcrumbs on top. Really absorbed all that smoke flavor, crunch, crisp. It was fantastic. It was maybe the best mac and cheese I've ever had, but also the rolls I made this morning or yesterday at about, I think I made the dough at 6:30 in the morning. So it was, had to get them done before the turkey went in, and it was awesome.
That looks great. I'm very impressed. And Cody, your brisket looked awesome. I hope it tasted just as well. Thank you for sharing that with us. I, on the other hand, went a little bit different route. My household's exactly the opposite. I do everything related to the bird and the stuffing and the gravy and everything that comes through it. So that's where I got this year. Pretty happy. It was a new trust for me because I got a bird that it was like 19 pounds because I had a bunch of people in my house. So I had to like truss up the wings to make sure they weren't like flapping out. So bit of a challenge, but I got there. And, in the end, it produced a really nicely browned and rounded bird. I ended up getting 2 pounds of stuffing in that thing.
That's awesome.
For us, we have a tradition in our house. In fact, I want you guys to get a look at it because we go Brussels sprouts. It's kind of our new thing. Wife does the sweet potatoes, the mashed potatoes. You can see the turkey here. It's not even really covered, but that is my basil pine nut king crab stuffing. And I'm going to put that recipe over on RGR Craft.
Okay, so we're going to have a dinner where I have some of this stuff. That sounds fantastic.
It is. I got to tell you, it's my favorite thing that I make. I'll put that recipe over on RGR Craft. You guys can check that out too. And maybe I'll even do a walkthrough next time. I didn't even think about it until I was halfway done with it this year. So we'll see. But that said, for our food porn portion of the evening, there you go. I'm going to crack a beer because it's a holiday. So cheers to everybody out there and to Cody. I'm going to pour this fatty because this is one of my favorites every year. This is an Imperial Winter Ale from Fremont.
Nice.
Just we'll hope that I can get through that today. I'm not sure we're going to happen on the show, so it'll be good. What are you drinking?
I can promise you I'll get through this. This is a Boulevard chocolate ale. See if it wants to take it in.
Yeah, I'm not in town for that anymore.
It doesn't. It's 8.5%. It's got the cocoa nibs and the vanilla extract. You can get all of it there at the end. Oh, this thing is dangerous. It's delicious. I've been really on a Boulevard kick lately. They've been releasing new stuff, and since it is the holidays, I tend to drink a little bit more with football and the holidays in general. So this has been a nice find. You guys know that I love the cranberry Tank 7. Oh, these things just delicious.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I have a couple of things sitting in the fridge from them. I have the Flux barley wine that's now aged 2 years, almost 2.5 years. It's just cellaring in the fridge. It's going to be beautiful. It's not quite this. This winter ale from Fremont is probably one of my favorites. If you've ever had Black Tusk and Whistler, this is the next best thing. So make sure you check that out. Really impressive too, Cody, that the little one is going to be into the biscuit. Do you just give her a chunk and let her like pull all the flavor out of it? I'm guessing there's not a lot of chewing.
Well, they got teeth. My daughter was eating meat.
Mine were not. Mine were mostly chewing it up and spitting it out. It is what it is. Chiefs again, welcome. We're going to talk about some of the takes.
I mean,
that ain't going to be one of them.
That's a take, buddy. That's what we call a take.
Yeah, that's you're pushing your limit there. That's impressive. Obviously the Chiefs aren't going to be benching Travis Kelce. You might be frustrated, and I can understand, especially when it comes to like the fumble thing. I don't care if he and Patrick are off cue on one play. That doesn't bother me. Obviously, taking care of the football is a different story. So I get where you're coming from with the thought, but I don't think that's really going to happen. So that's okay. What I'm trying to get to here momentarily as I share my screen again is the injury report. Very interesting this week. Couple of guys that you think you would like to have. You certainly wanted them against the Eagles in McKinnon and Hardman are not going to be available. They are listed as out for this contest. We're going to talk about the receivers plenty, Dan, but what does that do to the passing game overall, not having those particular guys?
It kind of takes away that explosivity behind the line of scrimmage that Andy Reid wants. Those short, quick passes to Mecole Hardman for the wide receiver screens, those are not going to be as effective. Now you might see Kadarius Toney in that role a little bit more. You might see newly healthy Richie James in that role a little bit more. You might see more Sky Moore taking on some of those things like that, or they just completely go away from it and say, hey, Rashee Rice, go back to doing those a bunch because we like to do that anyway. And you're the one guy that can be explosive enough to get up the field afterwards. So I think that it just kind of concentrates things a little bit. We'll see what and how much, if active, Richie James plays. But this is another game where now you're down your other speedster. And that unfortunately means that we're going to see more of the guys that I wish that we wouldn't this week.
It happens, and I understand it. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate. I'm sure Mecole isn't digging it either, to tell you the truth. Now, if I can get this dang thing to load, we will take a look at it here.
Good luck.
Evidently, X Pro, formerly known as TweetDeck, doesn't want to work for me today.
There we go.
I've scolded the Elon underlings. So that said, here's where it is. Only two guys with a designation status other than normal are McKinnon and Hardman. But you got full practices out of Donovan Smith, L'Jarius Sneed, Kadarius Toney, who is now listed with an ankle. We've had a hamstring. We've had a lower leg. We've had a number of things with Kadarius, but he was full go throughout practice.
Yeah.
Interesting one here. Blaine Gabbert, his personal regions early and then didn't practice on Friday. I was a little surprised by that. Not concerned in particular. I don't know if you are. Does that change anything for you?
I think that the personal is his not practice on Friday because the participation is Wednesday and Thursday and then Friday. And then the reason is on the left in the injury. So his DNP is personal reasons. So I'm like you, I'm not worried about it. He'll be there on Sunday for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you very much. The question becomes for Jackson, is a big Travis Kelce game coming? I would hope so. I would hope there's a redemption factor in that. There's always something with the Raiders. But if you're reading down the list, there's also a factor here where time to throw, time to complete is also going to be a thing. Yeah. And of course, as soon as I hit that, X goes crazy again. Okay. Thanks there, Elon. Love what you've done with the list. I don't know what it's doing. It's going crazy. But if you read, I'll just circle here with probably a mouse that you can't see. Doubtful. Doubtful is the word of the day coming on Friday. And that is by the guy that's on the thumbnail for this video with Patrick Mahomes. And that is Max Crosby. Pretty much the guy that is going to be the focus of how they have any attempt at slowing down a Travis big game incoming, because the only way to do that is to throw Patrick off of his game. If you allow Patrick to get a clean look, to get his 3 seconds in the pocket and allow Travis to do what he does, eventually they're going to connect. So this, to me, is the earth-shattering portion about this game. If Max Crosby is unable to go, the Chiefs will get their pass game right and it will flow through Travis Kelce and then branch from there. I am certain of that unless 98 is on the field.
Yeah, and also it's just going to help their run game because Max Crosby is one of the best run defenders in the NFL as well. Never gives up on a play. He's always motor high and he gets after it. He kind of gets in Patrick's face a little bit and he does have a tendency to get under players' skin. So one player they're not going to have to worry about doing that is Max Crosby. I personally like to watch him play. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL. So from a watchability standpoint, that hurts for me, but also at the end of the day, sometimes you need a little bit of a get going game to remember what it feels like to score points in the second half. I think now this is a prime game for them to feel that again, to get those points going this week against the Raiders, and to just feel it. It's been 3 or 4 games now where they haven't felt it. So when you go that long, you have to be reminded that you can do it. And I think this game they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think so as well. Marcus Epps, not a great catastrophe. Colton Miller, not Quentin. It's probably a bigger deal for the Raiders than it is for the Chiefs. I don't see that as a great comeuppance. I thought he played well at times last season. I don't think that's consistent. With both your safeties out, Morris could be possibly having issues as well. I don't think he's 100%. He did practice in full, but just today. But that was that. All those things are leading towards being able to do what you want to do with your pass game. And that's really where I come back to. What is it that they want to do that they're not coming around to what we want them to do? And that's the disconnect here. Maybe with McColl not eligible, that takes one guy out of the rotation. We've seen all this emphasis about MVS, and we saw Patrick Mahomes taking the credit for that drop, which was kind of ludicrous to me. We saw Justin Watson have issues and redeem himself and then have issues. It's been a bit of both. And if you are new to this channel, we've been talking about getting the young guys involved, and that has to be Rashee Rice. Is this a point, Dan, without the pass rush with possibly not the pass rush, and then a couple of guys at the safety level that should be manning the middle of the field between the hashes, or at least trying to keep an eye on those middle routes, the low crossing routes, and quite frankly, the far corner routes that I think Rashee Rice is great at doing? Is this allow what we've been waiting for to actually happen to you?
I would hope so, but I think the one thing that we're forgetting is that MVS and Justin Watson were all open deep yet on Sunday. They were open, right? It's not like they were contested catches. These were just drops or miscommunications with where they should have been on the field at the time the ball was released, because they were absolutely open. And I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes will be like, hey, guess what? These guys were open. So we're going to keep throwing them out there and keep trying to get them in rhythm, because they believe that this is an offense that runs through those guys, and they want to get their confidence back. Honestly, for me personally, I would not be playing Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I wouldn't play him. There's a similar receiver this year for the New York Jets that has a similar stat line, another former Green Bay Packer, in Allen Lazard, that got benched today against the Miami Dolphins for the Jets. They have a very similar stat line. I'm just gonna let you guys know that there's a reason that I didn't like the MVS signing from the beginning, and we're seeing it right now. He's an ineffective full-time player. He should not be playing full percent of the snaps, but here we are. And I guess he does get open. He gets those targets, and unfortunately, we're in an area where the Chiefs need to be prioritizing their young players, and they're not doing it. So there's some disconnect here with the offense and the coaching staff in who needs the reps. You're not going to have MVS next year, in my opinion. You're probably not going to have Justin Watson next year. Why aren't the younger players getting more reps? The most of the reps, the ones that are going to have the possibility to be on the team next year, those players need to learn the offense more than the veterans do. This is getting kind of extreme, in my opinion, and it's going to make them turn these games again into more losses if they don't allow these young players to grow and learn the offense while they're on the field, not in the practice facility.
And quite frankly, this is the perfect time. If you're Andy Reid and your excuse has been, I want to let him get used to the offense, we're not going to play him much through the break. Okay, fine. You had your break. You got to get past that. Now, the Eagles are the Eagles. Okay, maybe that controlled things as well. At this point, there's no more excuses. Now it's you got to get everyone ready for the playoff run. And more specifically, the first playoff game. Right now, you're not in first place. Right now, you're playing wild card weekend. You got to have those guys ready. So I agree with you. This is time to flip that switch and get it in gear. I think there's a lot of guys that could do that. We're going to talk about which ones specifically, who are the crucial matchups and contributors to this ballgame to win. We're going to do it on the backside of this. Want to get to our daily fantasy sports picks of the week, and that is through our pals over at Underdog. You can get in on Underdog right now by going to underdogfantasy.com and just using the code RGR. You can get in the mystery special so that you can get into the pick'em. Plus, you get a $100 match deposit. So if you put $100 in, you get $100 on top of it. And hey, that's always a lot of fun when you get extra dough that you didn't have to spend money on. And what we're going to do right now is, because as we sit here in the week, there's a little bit of a difference. Helps if I put the right thing on there. And I'm going to share my screen because things have changed. I know, Dan, you're not able to do as much as you used to here in the time zone or area code, shall we say, that you're in. And right now, with the Chiefs playing their Friday afternoon, they don't have the Chiefs game up and available, but they do have the most interesting matchup for me right now. I almost buried Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars because they just were inept. And then all of a sudden they have an M80 go off in their production, and boom, there it is. He's going up against maybe the most intriguing rookie quarterback in 10 years in CJ Stroud, a guy that we had number 2, both of us, but knew that it was a two-man race, and he has really taken the forehead. So what I want to look at is these quarterbacks head-to-head and what we like there. And the one guy that I think is untrustworthy, but I'm going to see if you override me because you are better at this. But let's just go to Trevor Lawrence at first. We're going to make an entry with you guys right here live. So if you are in it, you can go over to fantasy and get involved at underdogfantasy.com and play along with us, or maybe even make your own entries. If you want to get signed up, use our code RGR. And Trevor Lawrence is the key here. Everything flows through him, and the explosion he had against Tennessee can be partially contributed to the fact that it is Tennessee. The question is against Houston, Dan. They set the line right here at 18.65. And folks, if you don't know, the key to pick them here at Underdog Fantasy is they'll give you the number. You choose more or less, and then you make that selection. So do we think overall, after putting up 32, but putting up 4 against the Niners the week before, are you comfortable at 18.65, Dan?
So I am. I think that this is a game that, yes, you're also going to have to win with Trevor Lawrence, because I think that they're going to try. Realistically, the defense in Houston is not as good as the defense in San Francisco. There's a lot of problems in terms of execution because they don't have one guy. I can't remember his name. That Fred Warner guy who makes everything work in San Francisco. They don't have that kind of player. And the middle of their defense is kind of suspect with Denzel Perryman out and multiple linebackers injured. That's an area where Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram can really shine. I believe last week they finally found the secret sauce to making Calvin Ridley work. They moved him around the formation a bunch. They put him in some stacks. They got him off the line of scrimmage, not just as a single receiver, go routes down the field. I think they're going to put up points, and this is going to be a shootout. I know that Jacksonville's defense is good. CJ Stroud's better. I'm telling you right now, CJ Stroud's a better quarterback. He made some mistakes last week, and he's going to put points up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
Okay, so here's why I like that. I was really just going to go all down on the Jacksonville guys so we can get our entry in. And folks, if you do this and you're not talking through it like we are, you can get this done in 60 seconds and get your money into the action. So please do check out Underdog Fantasy. But the funny thing to me is CJ and Trevor have the same exact line, 18.65. And I think if you pick higher on one, like we did with Trevor, you got to go higher on the other, because I believe it is a back and forth. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I do. I think this is no, you're not crazy. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. I think this is going to be a game where maybe the last possession wins. Like this legitimately could be a 28-31 kind of game. And I like both opportunities to score. And I think Trevor Lawrence gets in with his legs this week too.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so we're both there that the head-to-head matchup lifts both these guys past 18.65. So the question becomes who contributes. And that's the tough part for me, because what I'm trying to figure out is, as you mentioned, they changed the dynamic with Ridley, someone who I've been waiting to actually break out all season. He finally does that. My question is, can I trust it? And right now I'm leading towards no. Talk me out of that.
Well, one thing is you only have to get over 9 points, okay? The 9 fantasy points, and this is PPR based. So you can
Right.
hope that he gets a touchdown, which is 6 points right there. I think that this is another game where you can get him to score 6 points with a touchdown because they move him inside and get him matched up on a linebacker possibly, or even a slot corner, things like that. Like he's in an it's 0.5, excuse me, it's half point PPR.
Yeah.
So that's still regardless. I think that he's going to be a guy that they have to get going because Christian Kirk's great and everyone else is great too. The one guy that you have to be able to make respect everybody else and to respect him is Calvin Ridley. So I like the over, or excuse me, I like the higher on his point total because I think 10 points should be in the bag for him this week.
Okay, like I said, you are better at daily fantasy sports than I am. I am more of a dynasty type, but that's okay. We're going with Dan's pick, folks. If you want in on it, get in on it too. So before we get to the additionals, let's go back to the weapons on the other side. Obviously, Nico Collins has been playing decently. Devin Singletary actually had a nice week last week, but the core is Tank Dell. Breakout, these two guys together going through this process of learning how to play in the NFL, I think is bigger than the combination of their individual efforts. The question for me is, when you look at his last he's beaten this number of 11.95 every single week. Does he do it again, in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know. Because I think part of the strategy right now is to force the Houston Texans to run the ball. To force it. You might see them maybe bracket coverage Tank Dell because of his explosivity. It's a tough one. He's going to have to get, I think, a long touchdown to break it because the volume isn't there for him. He's not force-fed the football. So I might go lower on 11, nearly 12 fantasy points for Tank Dell this week. And that's dangerous because, like you said, he's been over or higher than that number every single week in the last couple of weeks. And just it's dangerous. But again, I do think that Jacksonville understands the assignment. Limit the explosivity, force Houston to be methodical, run the football. So that's why I would go lower with Tank Dell.
Okay. I am of the same opinion. So we are nearly there. Miss Tracy, welcome. Glad that you caught up with us and we're able to see what's going on. We have a number of picks to this point. We've got Calvin and Trevor, and we've got CJ and Tank. We need one more if we want to play the full go here, which I am looking to do. You do?
I've got it if you do. It's Dalton Schultz. It's higher on 7.75. Excuse me, on Dalton Schultz. He has been the last 2 weeks. You got 9. You've got, what is that? I can't read that. 16?
10 and 22.
Oh, 10 and 22. Yeah, 10, 22, 9. He's been over that the last 3 weeks. He's a guy that's getting more involved in the offense. And again, if you're going to take away Tank Dell, who's stepping up? And CJ Stroud is getting that connection right now with Dalton Schultz. The linebacker core in Jacksonville also isn't the greatest. And I do think that CJ Stroud is going to be able to get there with a guy like Dalton Schultz, who's continued to grow in that offense and develop that connection with CJ Stroud.
Now, if you played with us before, you know that we've come out on top a couple times, well, at least one major time. I intend to go with the insured in order to kind of double down on that. Or do you want to go for the gusto?
No, I like the insured there because I'm still iffy about one of these. Like I feel like Tank Dell might end up making me look dumb, but I don't know.
Okay, so there we are. The possible winnings. We can still miss one, win 125, and get them all right, and we're in, like Flynn, at the full 500. So thank you guys for walking through that with us, and go support our friends over at UnderdogFantasy.com if you would like to get into and use our code RGR. Tracy, glad that you were able to make it. Certainly appreciate you. We got some questions while we were doing the fantasy piece, so I do want to get to those. So if you guys have a question, every super chat gets an answer today. And go ahead and throw those in now. We are going to go back to the start and get with Cody. Watson and MVS need to be on the injury with hands listed as questionable. That's a good way to put it. No injuries accounted for, but hey, yeah.
I'm still pretty upset about Justin Watson. I'll be very honest with you guys.
Yeah,
two plays where you're going to get hit. You know you're going to get hit, and you want to know what he does? Stone hands. He didn't want to. Yeah. That, for me, that kind of stuff is set on the bench kind of thing. This is the NFL.
And it's weird.
Easier. Yeah, it's weird. It's easier for me to say that sitting here on my gaming chair behind the desk to say you need to hang on to that football. But guess
Right.
what? This is the NFL. We've known, and everyone's known for decades, that if you're running around over the middle of the field, if you're running a curl route on 4th and 25, you're going to get hit. This is the moments. Patrick Mahomes has basically said by his target distribution, I trust you. 11 targets in that game to Justin Watson. And many times he did not come up with that trust. You drop passes when you're going to get hit. That does not sit well with me. It doesn't.
I
So
agree.
you guys know how I feel about the wide receivers. The young guys need to be given most of the run, and it's time for the veterans to step aside.
And that brings us to Cordarius' question. Could you get a better receiver like Jarvis Landry, who's still a free agent? My answer is no. He's not running away from anybody. If anything, he's condensing coverage down even more, bringing it in towards Travis as well. I think that's a ripple effect in the negative way, in my opinion. But maybe you see something I don't, Dan.
It's like a slower, older Richie James. I just don't believe that there's a ton of upside in bringing in a guy like Landry. Who, yeah, he's going to he'll catch the football. He absolutely will. He's not a guy who drops it a ton, but there is a reason he's on the market right now. In November, almost December, he's just not bringing you a whole lot. And in cold weather, a guy who hasn't played in the NFL yet this week or this year, I'm not putting faith in a guy coming off the street playing wide receiver right now.
Yeah, it's tough. And that's the thing is like you're not in game shape. You haven't played in the cold at all. And yes, I know he's played in Cleveland for a long time. That makes sense, but it's still an adaptation thing, like the short time. Not like can he not do it, but it's about getting adjusted right now. So, Cordarius, I hope that makes sense. And Chiefs, again, this is the question. It's the rookie factor. It's that Andy's kind of fighting his groove there. We've talked about Rice quite a bit. I'm glad you bring him up because he has to be the guy that they go to this week, more so than most. This should be the game where it's 11 targets for Rice, not for Watson. I don't think they're going to go away from Watson because they do trust him. But I do think that we need to see the roles flipped in terms of target distribution, and especially for those that are what he's doing well. He's surviving contact. He played on the outside last week and took a nice hit and was able to bounce off. You got to use that big body right now because although Justin is tall, he doesn't play like a big-bodied receiver that much. And that's what I think I'm looking for is the physicality portion.
You want to know one thing that Rashee Rice is not doing down the field? He's not dropping that football. He might drop it early on in the concentration drop, but when it's time to make a big play down the field, that's one thing he did not do in college. He didn't drop those footballs. He didn't do it. But we have not seen the Chiefs use him in the way he was used in college, which is a little bit interesting to me. It's a little bit out of character for the Chiefs to I understand they want to make him a little bit different, to use him differently, use his speed and athleticism. At a certain point, you got to let him be comfortable. He's not comfortable doing what he's doing right now. He's been succeeding.
Yeah. But more importantly, you need to let him be the guy that actually gets this passing game going. It's not like you're hitting on all cylinders, 400 yards and 7 touchdowns a game, right? Like you need help. Let him do what he does.
It's so frustrating to see them use a player like Rashee Rice in the exact opposite way. The exact opposite way. Granted, again, he's doing well, but I want to see 10 targets plus this week. I do.
I agree.
I want to see them involve him.
It should be Kels and Rice, period. It can be a 2-man game for all I care because that allows me to run the ball a little bit more. We're going to talk about that as well. But on the opposite side, I did want to pull up and show you guys what we're getting this season from Max Crosby because I think it's important. One of the other big matchups that I have right here is going to be Max over on what is right now, I think, predominantly Juwan Taylor. Now, Taylor doesn't have the girth that Wiley had. He doesn't have that bull rush ability. And Max will use a long arm. He uses a number of things that are shifting from power to speed, etc. I think Juwan Taylor's good positionally against Max. The question is, can he sustain in the power aspect? Does he have enough sand in his pants to take on those power rushes, especially when hit on one shoulder on the upper body and survive it? And I think he's going to do it. You can see his snap distribution here. He lines up nearly 90% on the left-hand side of the defense, the right-hand side of the offense, right? Could they flip that? Do you think it's worth it, Dan, or should we expect to see him used like he normally is?
I would expect them to continue to be there if he's playing again. And even if he is a go, let's just assume right now that they put him out there.
Yeah.
How many snaps is he playing? I don't know. I would imagine he's on a pitch count because not practicing all week tells you he's hurting. Tells you he's hurting pretty good. So does that trickle down to Tyree Wilson, their first round draft pick, who would be a power-based guy on the outside against Juwan Taylor? Or do you put him on the outside against Donovan Smith? Maybe you see that in a bit more. Maybe you just kind of this is going to filter down to where they're going to have to rely on Tyree Wilson to be more of a player than he has been to this point. He's had some flashes. Yeah, me too. He's had some flashes, but he's exactly the player that I thought he was coming out, who had a lot of work to do. Great, strong player, doesn't get off the ball quickly. You're going to line him up against Juwan Taylor. Guess what? I'm in my spot. Beat me.
Right. And honestly, Juwan's in good shape. Tyree's got super long arms. Juwan's got nearly as long arms. He's in good shape there. The advantage will be on the side of Donovan, who did not play well last week. That's another secondary on the offensive line for me is he's got to have a rebound game where he is functional, that he's quicker. I'm not so worried about the power. He's just got to get his feet moving better. That's where I think he lost last week for the most part. And so if he can correct that, I think they'll be in okay shape. Offensive matchup for you that you think is particularly key.
For the Chiefs offense?
Sure.
Well, again, if you're not going to be rushing out Max Crosby out there, I mean, that doesn't leave me with a ton of confidence in terms of their defensive pass rush. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to say it. It's the Chiefs versus themselves. This should be a walkover game. It should be a walkover. The Raiders should not challenge you at all, regardless of what happened last week with the Dolphins. I felt like the Dolphins overlooked that football game for whatever reason and just weren't playing very well. This should be a walkover. I'm challenging this offense to not make penalties in key moments. You can't have holding penalties on a 5-yard run that goes from 2nd and 5 to 1st and 20. You can't have the false starts. You can't have these key penalties that force you to now punt the ball away. Challenging the offense to have a game where they execute. Don't beat themselves, because I'll be very honest with you. There is nobody in that defense that I am even remotely worried about if Max Crosby's not playing. Even if he is playing hurt, there's nobody I'm worried about. Nobody.
I have to agree. I really, really have to agree, because I just don't see how you can get it done otherwise. So let it rip. I do want to still see it's 16 reps. It's 16 carries minimum for the running backs, primarily Pacheco. Without Mick, it's going to be out there. It's going to be a little interesting. Clyde ran hard and was productive-ish. They're going to have to use him. I'm looking forward to P. Ryan. He should be elevated with McKinnon not available for this ballgame. So it is about balance, and it's got to be 16 minimum called runs, no matter what. And that's going to be the key to the game on the offensive side for me.
Clyde's entering his C.J. Anderson bulk of his career right now. I don't know if you guys saw him. He has put some weight on. He's put some weight on. Maybe he's embracing the fact that he's just, even if he lost weight, he was never going to be much faster than he was. Maybe he's just embracing, I'm 4'6". Maybe I should just lean into that a little bit more and bowl some guys over. Because I'll be honest.
Change his number to 4'6". Become a fullback. I'd love to have one, please.
Fine by me. Fine by me. If they're just going to get him in space or run him downhill, I'm fine. Do whatever. As long as I don't see an outside zone from shotgun with Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week, I'll be happy.
Hold your breath. Hold your breath. When you flip it over, it's this guy that I think they have to worry about. And I know I'm probably overhyping it, because people are going to look at this and say, wait a minute. Against Buffalo, he had like a negative yards per carry average. And no, he didn't run very good last week against Miami either. I understand that. He has run well against the Chiefs. And quite frankly, I have zero confidence in O'Connell at all. Devontae Adams is probably the guy that is the least confident in that offense right now. So for me, if you're going to boil it down and you have a former linebacker as your head coach now, the simplest way is to keep the ball out of Patrick's hands and run the damn ball. They understand that. Do they do it? I don't know. It has to take precedence here. Do you feel you can run on the Chiefs? We know there's still not going to be a Bolton return. So they might be tempted to go for it. So for me, much like it was last week, jump on the run early, take it away from them so that they do what Andy does most weeks and just give up on it.
This is I like Aiden O'Connell. I actually like Aiden O'Connell.
Do you?
I think he's going to be a decent backup in the NFL, like a good backup, because he's not a starter. He's not a starter.
No.
That's just what this is going to be. But I liked him out of Purdue. Like, you watched him, he's like, he's not flashy. He just seems to get the ball exactly where it needs to go very quickly. In the NFL, it's a little different. Obviously, everyone's a little bit faster, and you have to do a little bit different things to get the ball out quickly. But I'm not worried about Aiden O'Connell beating the Chiefs defense, especially because I was doing this. I had a radio spot earlier today, and I feel like when we watch Spags right now, he is waiting. If he sees a good run on first down, he's like, okay, it's coming though. Wait till you get a 1 yard gain and it's second and long. Guess what? I'm coming for you. And Spags is calling this defense so more confidently than any other defensive coordinator in the NFL. Everything he has right now, all of his pitches are working. He's got the fastball. He's got the changeup. He's got the slider. He has the curve. And then he throws in a knuckleball every now and then. And it's all working. Every single one of it. So every time you see Josh Jacobs out there with maybe like a 5 yard gain, just know Spags is sitting over there like, okay.
Yep.
All right. You'll get that one for free. But wait till that 1 yard gain comes on first down, because I'm coming for you. And Trent McDuffie is coming for you. And L'Jarius Sneed's coming for you. And anybody is coming for you.
And everybody.
I love it. I love watching this defense. It's fantastic. They legitimately might get their turnover stuff figured out this week too.
They
might see a couple interceptions.
There were 3 last week for O'Connell, so I think it's a possibility. And I love the volume of linebacker blitzing that we're getting now. This is a fully functional defense, and that's what we've been waiting for since Gunther. Let's be real, it's been that long. So here's the keys. We'll get to some of your questions here and wrap up with our predictions here in just a minute. But it is about O'Connell. And the one thing that O'Connell has going for him now that we haven't seen earlier in the season, because for some reason McMinney just refused to play Hunter Renfrow, is that he's back out there. And that's the one matchup in the pass game that I feel like, okay, maybe that's the gotcha one, because you always have to give attention to Davante Adams. We all understand that. Jacoby Myers is actually a little bit underrated. The guy who got just as many targets as Myers last week was Renfrow. And he's a guy that, as good as Trent McDuffie is, he is not the most explosive change of direction guy, which Renfrow is. That is an advantage. The question is, how do they choose to play it? And I still feel, despite what I think will be, 5 for 5 and 42 that we see here,
Yeah.
I do think he's going to probably bite off more than that. I don't think it's going to hurt him, though. I'm confident that they're going to be able to play the defense they're playing, rally to it. Because here's the thing. Half the time, they're going to blitz McDuffie anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about the rotation. And that's where I think you play into Tranquil and Willie Gay's speed, and especially on the whip routes, on the low crossers, the things that you're replacing McDuffie on the blitz with. I think he's going to run into that coverage. There's going to be a more wide drop for the linebackers, the safety coming down to take that mid-middle. I think that makes a lot of sense. But if he does break one off, he's still got a lot of talent. How do you feel about him versus Adams being the guys that are probably the focus of hurting the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think that right now, the way that Snead's playing, he's going to take out whoever he's up against. He's going to take him out. And he can take out Davante Adams. Right now, Davante Adams is frustrated with the way that he's being used in the offense. And do you think that makes him play better? Because I don't. And one thing I know that's going to frustrate him even more is the way L'Jarius Sneed gets in his face. A.J. Brown, he was getting in his face. Tyreek Hill, he was getting in his face. He's going to get in Davante Adams' face. So this comes down to, I think Jacoby Myers is going to be the guy. He's going to be the one matched up with Justin or Jalen Watson or Josh Williams. Mm-hmm. I know that, Trent McDuffie, whether he's blitzing or not, is going to have some matchups with Renfrow. I'm not so worried about that. I'm more worried about Jacoby Myers. He's a fantastic receiver. And like you said, he's underrated. And if he's lined up one-on-one with one of those younger corners that aren't as talented, I think he can take advantage of that matchup. All comes down to, can O'Connell identify where the blitz is coming from and how to get the ball out quickly? Because that offensive line, it's not the Eagles' offensive line. And the Eagles' offensive line couldn't handle what was coming at them on Monday, excuse me. Couldn't handle it. So speed, getting the ball out quickly, and I think that how they handle Jacoby Myers determines how much of the passing game impacts this Chiefs defense.
And with the volume of pressure that I expect the Chiefs to get, I do think it's going to be these shorter throws. I think that limits Adams, to tell you the truth. The other guy that is probably the asterisk here, the dark horse, is Michael Mayer.
Agreed.
Guy that has been criminally underwhelming this season because of the quarterback situation. But it's starting to come on. He and Renfro will be the outlets, the emergencies, the guys that when he is under pressure, he can visualize and get the ball too quickly. So look for both of them. Let's get to our questions, and then we're going to tell you our final predictions for how this ball game is going to go. Austin, thank you for your question. Is there some promise to Tony returning punts? Seems like he always torches the Eagles return-wise. Feel like we get the ball to Rice and KT hands early, and they go MIA almost weekly. I think that's more of a function of the first 15 scripting. What do you think?
I agree. I do think it's very funny that Andy Reid was talking about how they want to make sure that Kadarius Toney is healthy for most of the season, and then he's a running back, a wide receiver, and a punt returner all in the same game coming out of the bye. So clearly something is going differently with the way that he's rehabbing, the way he's playing, and then again disappearing. What is going on in the second half of football games where they don't target Rashee Rice? They don't target Kadarius Toney. And you're targeting Justin Watson. You're targeting MVS all this amount of time. And again, I'll give it to them. They were open. So they earned their targets. Mm-hmm. They earned their targets. So that there is something there. But why is the bulk of the offense not going into scheming up in the second half of football games your better players? Kadarius Toney and Rashee Rice are better players than MVS and Justin Watson. That's a fact. That is a fact. But we're not seeing them get them the ball more. Mm-hmm. Is it that trust factor in the second half where maybe they're straining a little bit? They're like, we can't trust our young players to make plays. But right now, you can't trust your veterans to make plays. At some point, you got to let go in the second half. Stop being so uptight, so tense. Relax a little bit. Let the chains and let the reins loose. Let these young players live or die, but learn in the process, because the veterans aren't learning in the process. They're still making the same mistakes in week 11 that they were making and that everyone's making. So figure it out.
And that's the other edge of the blade on the sword is they're out there because they're veterans and they know what they're doing, but they're also guys that are not going to progress. They are finished products for all intents and purposes in this league. So you're not going to get progression. Yeah. I agree with you. And it goes back to everything else that we've been talking about. They should be sprinkled in as secondaries. You got to feed the youngins. CJ, sorry. How does the EFRA work in the NFL? Is there a way that they could get Rashid Shaheed from the Saints? No, that is an exclusive rights free agent. That means that you put one of two tags on there. You either get, if somebody signs him away when he has that tag on him, means they either get 2 2s, or is it, no, it's 2 1s or a 1 and a 2, or what's the secondary exclusive rights? There's 2 levels, and I can't remember the second one because no one ever
depends on the. Yeah, I was about to say, I think it depends on the player, right? Like,
yeah, you designate
or
the
whatnot.
Level.
Yeah. So
and that's why.
Rashid Shaheed's not going anywhere, by the way, guys. No. He's probably going to get a second round tender. That's what I would imagine, that they're going to put at least a second round pick on him. And I'm a big Rashid Shaheed guy. Like, now I've watched him. Like, he's not going anywhere. No one's gonna be able to touch him. They might even put a first round tender on him. I don't know. Wow. He's very valuable to that team. Speed and route running. He's a very underrated player.
I completely agree with you. So, hey, I think the play calling in the first half looked good. Then we get to the second half. It seems pretty simple. It's just backing off. It's not feeling. I think Andy is like coveting the rest of the playbook. He doesn't want to give it away too early. I think he feels like they've gotten a couple of things out too early in past seasons. I think he's just being too stingy with it and feels like he doesn't have to put it out there in order to win ball games. And then if you have execution errors, the margins are tight enough that you drop games you shouldn't. That's the problem. So hopefully there's plenty of depth in that playbook that we haven't seen that he can just start to let things creep out.
Answer me this. If they catch those footballs, are we asking about the playbook?
Ding, ding, ding.
And I think that's the big thing here is that if the Chiefs get out of their own way, no one's asking questions about the offense. These guys have been open. The problem is defenses don't care about MVS. They don't care about Justin Watson. They have made a concerted effort to say, what are you doing well in the first half? All right, you're running the ball. We'll send an extra guy. And then they have those penalties creep up too, which helps. So you get the 5-yard run and then you get a penalty. Okay, damn, you have to go back and do something different. But then on a different drive, it's 2nd and 9. And they're like, okay, we're going to double Travis Kelce. Please beat us with MVS and Justin Watson, because even if they're open, they're not making the play. And defenses don't respect the players outside of Travis Kelce. I'm telling you right now, if they don't feature their better players, Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney in the passing game going forward, this is going to continue to happen because MVS and Justin Watson do not command respect from defenses, and nobody cares. At least Juju Smith-Schuster last year said, if you leave me one-on-one, I'm catching a back shoulder fade. I'm going to stop in the zone, and I'm going to beat you. Nobody right now is doing that. I'm getting heated because this is so frustrating to me that we're seeing the same crap happen every single week, and it's not changing. These players don't command respect from defenses. And unless you start to do something different, they don't care about these players.
Yeah.
And they don't have to.
And every time you use them and they make another mistake, they run an over pattern when they shouldn't, they drop the ball. It just reduces that ability even further. And then you don't get the scare tactics that you should always have with an arm like Patrick Mahomes under center. You have to get something done.
He's on the podium taking credit for an MVS drop, guys.
Right.
An MVS drop. I could have thrown it better. Please prove to me that you could have thrown it better.
For those of you watching at home, for you high school players, that's good leadership. That's not reality. That's okay. They are separated sometimes. Curtis, do you think that Avicii and Andy could go back to free agency and sign Wiley and D-Hop instead of Taylor? It would be less than Taylor alone. Is Taylor a much better tackle than Wiley? And the answer is, unfortunately, yes. In everything that Andy Reid cares about, he is a better kick step, get to your spot, pass blocking tackle than Andrew Wiley is. Andrew Wiley's more well-rounded. He does. I thought his run and his pass block were about the same level, and so that allowed you to do some different things. But no, I don't think for a 32-year-old wide receiver in Andrew Wiley that they would go back and change anything.
I wouldn't myself either. DeAndre Hopkins isn't changing this offense very much. He's not.
No, I don't think so. Chris, Max Crosby out for this game, which is a relief for the Chiefs. He is not out, Max. He's listed as doubtful. And maybe he won't play, but we don't know. We have seen guys play when listed as doubtful before.
Yeah.
Honestly, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Max Crosby. He's a stubborn son of a bitch, I'm telling you.
Yes.
I will not be surprised. Jackson, why do they quit using Toney downfield after a couple of drives? Seems like they miss on a bunch of slants, digs, and overs. They've run more slants lately, but just not enough. Like, again, this is – use it until they stop it territory. Not, hey, we're going to sprinkle this in and prove we can do it. This should be a staple. Every other play, somebody should be running a slant.
Give me stack, slant, and out combinations. Give me stack, slant, and out combinations, and you throw it until they commit people to it, and then you hit the backside dig. That's just simplify what we're doing here. They do the curls and the corners. Let's see the slants and the outs in a stack formation. Someone's open. I promise you there will be somebody open. They play too much off coverage and zone coverage for it not to be. Just do it, please.
Yeah, and the way most teams are playing these zones, they're either playing cover 4, cover 3, where you have guys dropping well back, especially the corners where you have 3 deep zones. That out is going to be there. If they try to jump that, then the slant should be there all day long, especially if you got closed middle and you have a single high that's taken his backward steps first as well. It's always there. And I love the backside dig. Sometimes I wonder if Patrick even gets to that these days.
Ever.
But
never.
That's the problem. So, I mean, you got to run slants with someone besides Travis Kelce. They've shown us that they don't continue to show us. So that said, I think we've answered all of your questions. Last call for super chats. And we will get to that after we tell you exactly what our expectation is here. Dan, do you want to go first or you want me?
Yeah, I'm fired up right now, so I'm gonna take the lead on this one. The Chiefs should come out and completely curb stomp the Raiders. This should not be an issue in terms of scoring points. They should not allow the Raiders to score more than 7 points, 10 points. It should not be a game where we're seeing in the fourth quarter, like the Dolphins game. It should not be something like that. This should be, boom, put the foot down. Stop it. Ending all questions about, and I'll be honest, if the Chiefs do this, it won't stop the questions. It will make them feel like they can do it again. And I think that's, like I said earlier in this stream, that it will make them more understand that they can still do it. And that's the turning point. Can they start scoring in the second half? This game, they're going to. I think they're going to put a whooping on the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think it's going to be close from start to finish. If it is, we have some real problems. Because this Raiders team is nowhere in the same stratosphere as the Chiefs. So I know they like to muddy things up. I know they like to get funky. Shouldn't matter. The Chiefs should win this one walking away 28-7. I don't even think that they score more than, I don't think they get to double digits. I really don't.
Okay. I hope you're right. And I agree with you. This team has a tendency to pull off the gas and muddy things up just because they can. I think Patrick's frustration in particular, and Kelsey's as well, is going to drive this offense to more than that. I agree with you. Aiden O'Connell cannot keep up. There's just no way. And unless they have some kind of major breakdown against Jacobs, I feel very similarly, except I think it's even worse. I think this is kind of the embarrassing loss that it should be. If Max Crosby isn't on the field, it's over before it begins, in my opinion. This is 31-14 Chiefs, and it's not pretty, and I don't care, and I'm happy as a clam when it's over. But take it with a grain of salt, too, because these Raiders are not good. You got to get on track, and maybe that will let Andy do it. We want to know your predictions as well. Throw them down in the comments, on the standard comments. Live chat's almost over here, folks, so throw them in the regular comments. We'd like to see them. And if you would, like and sub and hit the bell. Last question came in that I do think is interesting in terms of a scale of 1 to 10. How strong is the draft class and how strong is it for the Chiefs' needs? This last one, I'd say I'd give it right now is strength-wise about a 6. And I think they did a good job on fit. They got in a bad position. They couldn't get a tackle or pass rusher they wanted. Felix was the best guy available that fits their archetype. So they had to go get him. Would I have traded out? I would have, but maybe they were trying it out. I just don't know that. So in terms of how strong it is for the needs, I still have to give it a 5 because I think it was as close as they could get at the time. So that said, it all comes here, and maybe this is a game for Felix as well because you want to throw as many weird pass rushes as you can at this particular quarterback, and I think that's going to pay off. So hit us with your predictions in the comments section. We hope that you had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope that you enjoy your weekend. For all the college stuff, all the team building stuff, you can hit us over at NFL 33. Go get a paid subscription so you can get all the dirt because I'm working on all the advanced stats for pass rushers and quarterbacks already. Corners and tackles are coming. We got a lot of cool stuff coming for you over there, and I know that the Chiefs are going to be in it for a very long time, hopefully all the way through the Super Bowl conclusion, but it's never too early to take a look at the draft class. Just saying.
Never.
Dan, you have weekend plans?
I don't actually. It's a nice long weekend, and my wife's going to be, obviously, she was off work the last couple of days, so we're just going to stay home. I think we're going out to dinner tomorrow night, but I'm watching football. Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow, and then we got Chiefs, Raiders on Sunday. Like I'm football stacked. I've been watching it.
Well, good luck to your Wolverines. And then there was that, folks. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be live post-game this week. Have something special for you coming next week after that, but be with us here after the Chiefs Raiders. We appreciate your time. Have a great one. We'll talk to you then.